Of the letter is the secret meeting that changed rap music and destroyed a generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. I have struggled for a long time weighing the pros and cons of making my story public, as I was reluctant to implicate the individuals who were present that day. So I've simply decided to leave out the names and all the details that may risk my personal well-being and that of those who were, like me, dragged into something they weren't ready for.
Damn.
Hold on, let me
So we gonna tell the story.
We gonna tell the story. We ain't scared.
You know what I'm saying? What they gonna do?
They after us, not just like
Look, that black van.
So look, so he says between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I came to Europe in the early 80s and quickly established myself in the business. The industry was different back then, since technology and media weren't accessible to people like that, like they are today. The industry had more control over the public and had the means to influence them any way it wanted.
Right.
This may explain why in early 1991, I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Rap music's new direction.
Yeah.
Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen.
Crazy.
So this was the meeting. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there.
Right.
Most of them familiar faces. Speaking of those I knew, we joked about the theme of the meeting, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip hop.
Talk to him.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Based on their behavior and formal appearances, they didn't seem to be from our industry. Our casual chatter was interrupted when we were asked to sign the confidentiality agreement, preventing us from publicly discussing the information presented during the meeting. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. The agreement was only a page long, but very clear on matters and consequences, which stated that violating the terms would result in job termination immediately. We asked several people what this meeting was about and the reason for such secrecy, but could not find anyone who had the answers for us. A few people refused to sign and walked out. Nobody stopped them. I was tempted to follow, but curiosity got the best of me.
That's right.
A man who was part of the unfamiliar group collected all the agreements from us. So now it's going to get to the good part because the meeting about to start.
Talk to him, Jake.
It says, quickly after the meeting began, hold on one second.
Get your popcorn, y'all.
Popcorn, get your pistol. No,
for real though.
Quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. I think he was the owner of the residence, but that was never confirmed. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industries and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. At this point, I began to feel slightly uncomfortable and the strangeness of this gathering. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry, which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons, and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. Then he says, I remember many of us in the group immediately looking at each other in awe and confusion. At the same time, I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. Sure enough, someone asked what these prisons were and what any of this had to do with music. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates.
Mm-hmm.
The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. At this point, my industry colleague who had first opened the meeting took the floor again and answered our questions. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remain filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies. And as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. I remember looking around to make sure I wasn't dreaming and saw half of the people with dropped jaws. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?" At this point, things became chaotic.
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun, and we all backed off. They separated us from the crowd, and all four of us was escorted outside. My industry colleague who opened up the meeting earlier hurried out to meet us and reminded us that we had signed an agreement and would suffer the consequences of speaking out about this publicly, or even those who attended the meeting.
Damn.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we can do. And no, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we want to challenge without risking consequences. We all protested as we walked back into the house. I remember word for word the last thing he said. It's out of my hands now. Just remember you signed an agreement. He then closed the door behind him. The men rushed us to our car and actually waited until we drove off the property.
Damn.
So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting right there.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and this person later on, he said, you know, this person actually ended up leaving the music industry after this happened. With a few years after this, he ended up leaving the music industry.
Okay.
And he said he just, like, you know, over the years, he just felt guilty because he said as he sat back and he watched these plans come to a reality
Over 2 decades.
he sat back and was like, wow, they really pulled it off.
Yeah.
They really pulled this off. He was like, they were told not to sign any more political rappers, any more rappers that had messages in their music.
Positivity.
It was all to be gangster rap music that they promoted and put out.
So if you wonder where
And this
Brand
was
Nubians
before
went,
us.
if you wonder where Brand Nubians went, where Poor Righteous Teachers went, where Public Enemy went, where KRS-One went, and all sorts of groups like that was talking,
Yeah.
even Queen Latifah and Moni Love and those, you know what I'm saying?
Everybody.
It's a back door.
Yeah, anything that was harmless, fun rap, you know, anything that had a message in it had to go.
Yeah, that's
You know
why
what I'm
if you
saying?
even notice though, not
And
even
we talk about that all the time.
even be brief with it, you know what I'm saying? Those charms that came out like maybe in 1988, 89, the African charms, those they lasted for about 2 years and they disappeared real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely,
Quickly.
definitely. Now, after reading all this, you know, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shocked because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger. Anger because it's not enough for them to exploit our culture and make all the money off of it.
Mhm.
Because let's keep it real, the industry has never been favorable towards the artist. Never. But they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time were mainly minorities.
Yep.
In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them. And it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
So they making a killing.
A killing.
They're using the music business to promote their private prison business.
Salaam Alaikum. Mr. Moderator, our distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, our friends and our enemies.
Bismillah, wa salatu wa salam wa rasulullah wa ba'd. In the name of Allah, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon his last and final messenger. Family, friends, foes, haters, and hateheads, welcome back to the Feachaz. I greet you all in peace and love with no hatred in my heart. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before we begin, please like, please subscribe, and please share. As you know, we got a lot of haters up in here. Now, family, for the last couple of weeks or so, I've been telling you that something's going on with my YouTube, and my lives have been restricted by YouTube, and I'm pretty sure the same thing's going to happen with this one here, because we're talking about a very touchy subject about one group that you're not supposed to talk about. Because if you talk about this group, you will be censored and your life will be ruined. Y'all hearing me? And since we are talking about this group, I fully expect that perhaps YouTube will censor it. Y'all hearing me? Because the second you talk about this particular group, this powerful group, no matter what you say, whether it's factual, whether it's fictional, whether it's based in having some civil discourse, or whether it's based out of outright hatred, you will be labeled an anti-Semitic, no matter what you say. Y'all hearing me? And the charge of Black people being anti-Semitic is so ridiculous and thoroughly grounded in vivid imagination, like unicorns and pixies and fairies, these type of things. The anti-Semitic Black man. Can you imagine? The anti-Semitic Black man. But yet still, we have very powerful people who are in the business of Black folk for the singular purpose of censoring Black people, to make sure that they don't get too smart or too uppity, or they know who is in charge up in here. So recently, as y'all know, we had this situation with Kanye West. And Kanye West, who is, again, he's just an entertainer. And you know, sometimes Allah will use a wicked or an evil person in order to open the eyes of the masses. We see this time and time and time again. Even in the Quran itself. When Allah mentions about Pharaoh, how he drowned Pharaoh before the very eyes of the Beni Israel, of the children of Israel. He drowned them right before their eyes. This powerful enemy, wealthy, controlled every aspect of the lives of the Beni Israel. So much so that he caused the mass slaughter of their boys. Also mentioned in the Quran. So sometimes Allah will do this. And like the Beni Israel saw Pharaoh drown before their eyes as a blessing, what you're seeing now is Black people opening their eyes to the reality of the investment in their minds and the hidden hand that is controlling the strings that are attached to your entertainers, to your actors, to your athletes. You're getting to see all this now. Because that hidden hand is so used to getting away with everything, because the hidden hand is a powerful hand. But what has happened is that instead of Black people falling in line behind this anti-Semitic whitewash, that is supposed to cause the Black masses to run behind the hidden hand and protect the hidden hand that is keeping the minds of Black folk in mental slavery. What has happened is the opposite effect has happened. Y'all hearing me? So even though Kanye West, he is not somebody to be followed, of course. He is not somebody to use as a role model. He is somebody who came up through the ranks, like many before him, as a mouthpiece from the string holders who are telling you what your culture should and should not be. He came up through those ranks. And these people made him a billionaire. And because he got off script, y'all hearing me? They tried to destroy him. And all the Black grassroots and the Black populace in general, when we saw that, because this is not the first time this has happened, but the response was so over the top and unreasonable. And it's not the first time that we've seen this. As a matter of fact, we've seen this happening with incredible frequency as of late. the response of black folk was, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is going on here? Is there some validity to what Kanye is saying? And then Kyrie Irving, the basketball player, who did not say anything about Jews at all. Mind you, he did not say not a single thing about the Jewish community. He shared a tweet. That wasn't even an anti-Semitic tweet at all. What it was a tweet from these Hebrew Israelites, black Hebrew Israelites who are saying that black folk are the true Israelites. That's what he shared. He shared this. And this is the reason why I said I'm going to cover this topic today. And he got suspended by the NBA for 5 games for this. And instead of black people crawling back in their beds, hiding underneath their blankets and putting their heads over their pillows like they're supposed to, what's happening is they're saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is going on here? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sister Tika, ayakullah. Y'all hearing me? I want to show y'all something. It got to the point that even the banks, can you imagine? The banks went after Kanye West. A bank. What does a bank have to do with Kanye West's opinion about anything? Have you ever heard anything like this? Banks all across the world are funding white supremacists all across the world, Klansmen all across the world. I've never, not once in my entire life, and maybe one of y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have never once heard of a bank say that we are pulling your white supremacist, Klansmen, Nazi money out of our bank because you're anti-Semitic. Not once, not a single time. But Kanye West, who really, he didn't actually say anything anti-Semitic. He said that black folks were the real Semitics. Whether you believe that or not, you can debate that. You can debate that. But Volkswagen, you know the company Volkswagen? Why are you talking about Volkswagen? You know, Volkswagen, where are my intelligent black people at? Who started Volkswagen? Somebody put it in the chat, please. Adidas. Adidas was started by who? Who started Adidas? Somebody put it in the chat. Where are my intelligent black people at? Where are my intelligent black people at? Who started Volkswagen? Somebody put it in the chat, please. Who started Volkswagen? Do y'all know? Y'all know who started Volkswagen? You know what Volkswagen means? Volkswagen is a German word or sentence or whatnot. It means Volks, the people's wagon car, the people's car in German. Which people are we talking about? Somebody please put it in the chat. Which people are we talking about? Abu Barak got it. The Nazis. Have you ever heard of any bank anywhere on earth at any time saying that we are pulling out our Nazi Volkswagen money out of our banks from Volkswagen or Adidas for that matter, or IBM? IBM, they themselves who built or set up the Nazi intelligence bureaucratic whatever they did, back in those days. IBM helped the Nazis so much. They built their information structure so they can, nobody ever said that. Kanye West, what did he say? That, like even I'm reading that and I'm like, does it deserve that heavy-handed response? Meanwhile, the same Kanye West who said slavery was a choice, how many companies pulled their money for that? How many companies pulled their money for that? Meanwhile, these same record labels who have black youth preaching to other black youth, black hatred with impunity, N-word, B-word, you name it. Kill this N. And we know what it is. These Negroes who do this with this anti-black hatred, they get rewarded. They get record deals. You get it? For debauchery, for spreading debauchery in the black community. But don't say that black people are the original Hebrews. Don't say that. Because that's anti-Semitic. Y'all hearing me? So look at this. Kanye West, JP Morgan Chase cuts ties with rapper. The decision to end relationship with West and clothing brand Yeezy predates recent controversies and array of anti-Semitic comments. Can you imagine? The U.S. bank JP Morgan Chase has ended its relationship with Kanye West and his clothing brand Yeezy Inc. Although the decision predates the rapper and designer recent controversy in which he wore a White Lives Matter t-shirt and shared racist conspiracy theories in an unaired interview. Can you imagine? A bank? A bank? Even Adidas cutting ties with Kanye West. It was a little over the top. But you can say, maybe I can see it for PR. But a bank? A bank? Banks are now involved in politics? Family. This is the political theater that very powerful owners of media and politics have played with concerning black people for a very, very, very long time. It is not the first time that black people have been accused of anti-Semitism, even before even the Nazi party, okay? Black people who have no history anywhere on earth of murdering, torturing, exiling Jewish people anywhere. And if you knew the incredibly long list of black folk, including civil rights leaders and people who are fighting for black rights accused of anti-Semitism, like W.E.B. Du Bois, accused of anti-Semitism, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, accused of anti-Semitism. James Baldwin, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Louis Farrakhan, Khalid Muhammad, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, every last one, and more, so much more, were accused of anti-Semitism. And these are not my words. These are the words, according to even the ADL, okay, and other Jewish lobbies, Jewish protectionist lobbies, who accuse all these black leaders of anti-Semitism. Can you imagine? Martin Luther King, anti-Semitic? James Baldwin, anti-Semitic? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? But wait, there's more. Even the entertainers and the athletes, they're not immune to this. Muhammad Ali, accused of anti-Semitism. You don't have to take my word for it. Just go and read the Jewish articles of who they call black anti-Semitics. Muhammad Ali, okay? Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson. Yes, they accused him of being an anti-Semitic. Ice Cube from Time. They've accused him. These, mind you, these are the Negroes who are the entertainers and the athletes. They're supposed to be on a plantation somewhere, right? Making sure that your children, your boys, only aspire to be entertainers or athletes, correct? But the second they get off script, they accuse you of anti-Semitism. Deshaun Jackson, a football player, one of the most shocking ones. Y'all remember very recently what happened to Whoopi Goldberg? Whoopi Goldberg. Somebody put in the chat, what religion is Whoopi Goldberg, please? Somebody put in the chat, what religion is she? What religion is Whoopi Goldberg? Thank you. She's Jewish. But is she just a passing Jew, or is she an actual practicing Jewish woman? She's a practicing Jewish woman. She practices Judaism. They accuse, and not only that, Whoopi Goldberg is a well-known house Negro in all black circles. She is an establishment Negro. She is your atypical, white supremacy and blackface. Tell the black folk to vote Democratic Party, love the LGBTQs, and kumbaya and people of color Negro. That's who she is. Full-fledged establishment Whoopi Goldberg. They accused her of anti-Semitism. Do y'all remember why they accused her of anti-Semitism? Do you all remember what she did or what she said to get accused of anti-Semitism? Y'all remember what she did? You know what she said to get accused of anti-Semitism? She said that the Holocaust wasn't about race. That's what she said. She said the Holocaust wasn't about race. Even without her saying that, I never believed the Holocaust was about race. How could it be about race? You have white Jews and white Christians, and the white Christians are trying to exterminate the white Jews. This is a phenomenon that's been happening in Europe for hundreds of years. Where Jews, wherever they go in Europe, they'll be expelled like this. You know what I mean? The Spanish Inquisition, what was the Spanish Inquisition about? It was about white Christians expelling or converting white Jews, correct? Karl Marx, his own father, Jewish, mind you, converted to what? Christianity. Why? Because he couldn't do business as a Jew at that time. Y'all hearing me? Even for I never, like, it never occurred to me. Just common sense would be like, you don't even have to say it out loud. It's like saying the English and the French war was about race. What? Like, how? You know what I mean? It don't make no sense. But they called her anti-Semitic for that. She's Jewish. She is Jewish. Y'all hearing me? Nick Cannon. Can you imagine Nick Cannon? Did you see what they did to Nick Cannon? You saw what they did to him, right? They fired him from the show that he created. He donated his salary to the Jewish community, the B'nai B'rith, I believe it was. And it still wasn't enough for them. And mind you, these are not people who are saying like egregious things. They're saying things like black people are the original Jews and stuff like that. These are the type of things that they're saying. Kanye West, who said that I can't be anti-Semitic because we are from a Semitic people, that turns into anti-Semitism. How? When black folk hear that black people are the original Semites, does that cause you to love Jews more or hate Jews more? Which one does it cause? You know what I mean? Really? Black people are original Semites? Oh, let me go hate them. Like what? Even if it's not true, because we can talk about that too. The origins of, the children of Abraham. We can talk about that. Even if you look in the Quran and the Sunnah, where are my intelligent Muslims at? Musa, what color was he? Alayhi salam. Musa, what color was he? Put it in the chat, please. What color was Musa? And they're going after Katie. You're talking about Kevin Durant, I'm assuming, right? Let me tell y'all something. They can suspend Kyrie Irving for 5 days. Okay? That why they're suspending him is a message being sent to NBA players and to the wider black community, because it's a show of power and unity. You understand? Me, wallahi, I never heard in my entire life a black person ever out of his own mouth or her own mouth say, I hate Jewish people. We hear this all the time from your white supremacists, yes. But the modern Zionist European Jews, they identify with these white folks. Because they identify as white. Correct? They identify as white. So now here comes Kyrie Irving. And up until this day, I haven't heard him say anything. Not a single thing. It's a bunch of reporters attacking him over a tweet. A tweet! Which wasn't an egregious tweet either. And all they have done and accomplished by this, they haven't caused black people to run in fear. Black people are looking at this, and you know what the black grassroots are saying? They're saying things like, you know what, 90% of your employees are black. Let all those black people off the plantation look and go work for Ice Cube. That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. These old tired tactics, they don't work no more. Can you imagine all these and there's more athletes, more entities, more than the ones I mentioned. More black civil rights leaders. So many. So why is it when it comes to your renowned black personalities that the Jewish community, there's always a one-sided, heavy-handed response against black people? Why is it? We, black people who have zero history, and I mean zero history, of violence against Jews anywhere. And as a matter of fact, the idea that blacks are somehow anti-Semitic is such a ridiculous and asinine charge that even the most smallest, simplest questions can unravel these baseless claims. But the point is, you're not talking about people who want a fair, civilized discussion. You're not talking about that. You're talking about people who want to control a narrative and a people. You get it? You're talking about people who are not interested in having a discussion. They're not interested in that. They're only interested in making sure that black people stay on script with regards to them, because they have the power and you don't. You don't believe me? Watch, y'all. Who knows what BET is? Y'all know what BET is? BET is Black Entertainment Television, correct? BET was bought out by Viacom for $2.3 billion on October 4th, 2000. Y'all hearing me? Who is the owner of Viacom? Do y'all know? Y'all know who it is? Do y'all want to see the owner of Viacom? Who owns BET? Who owns Black Entertainment Television? Y'all want to see it? Y'all ain't ready. Meet Sumner Redstone. Sumner Redstone, who owns your Black Entertainment Television. This guy right here. Let me just make it bigger for you so y'all can see. This man. This is Sumner Redstone, owner of BET, Black Entertainment Television. The one who puts on all your very colorful music videos and love and hip hop and all that stuff that you invest in calling it black shows. The NBA, in which, oh, by the way, he's Jewish, okay? In case you missed that. Okay? The NBA, 90% of the players, the employees in the NBA are what? Black, correct? Who is the first commissioner of the NBA? Somebody put it in the chat, please. What was his name? What was his name? Somebody put the name of the first commissioner of the NBA. What was his name? Y'all remember? Y'all remember who it is? Let me show you. This guy owned the NBA since the NBA was the NBA. Let me show y'all. Because y'all think it's jokes. Y'all ready? How do I get rid of this? Let me see, y'all. Let's refresh this. Meet David Stern. Y'all remember him, David Stern? Old white guy again, right? But what kind of old white guy? What kind of old white guy is he that's owning the NBA? That is silencing black players today. Thank you. He's Jewish. He's Jewish. Is this anti-Semitism to say that the old NBA commissioner is a Jewish? Is that anti-Semitism? The vast majority of the talent in the NBA is black, and he controlled it for how many years? Who is the new NBA commissioner now? Who is the new NBA commissioner today? Y'all know? Y'all ain't ready for this. I'm pretty sure that this video is going to get shut down. I'm positive. You know, I might have to make it for members only. Just put it on the Patreon. I'll put it on my Patreon, right? Because I don't think YouTube will allow this for sure. But do y'all know who the NBA commissioner is today? Y'all know? You can't make this crap up. You cannot make this crap up. Y'all think it's jokes. Let me get him up here. Y'all ready? Thank you. Adam Silver. Adam Silver. Watch this, y'all. Watch this. You cannot make this stuff up. Meet Adam Silver. What makes him different from other white folk? Do you know what it is? Y'all know what it is? Do I have to say it? Do I have to say it? These are the people that are suspending black players from the NBA for being anti-Semitic. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Who knows who Lear Cohen is? Do y'all know who Lear Cohen is? Or Laura Cohen, as I call him, Laura Cohen? Who knows who Laura Cohen is? Do y'all know who he is? Let me introduce you to Laura Cohen. Thank you. Record exec. Why is Laura Cohen so important, though? Why is he important? Y'all know why? Y'all know why he's so important? He's a record exec. What makes him special? Y'all know what it is? Let's learn a little bit about Laura Cohen today. Laura Cohen, that's his Hebrew name. They put it here. Okay? I didn't put it here. This is Wikipedia. Let me share it with y'all. I'm sharing it with y'all. Is an Israeli American record executive and entrepreneur. Cohen has been actively involved in hip hop at various record labels for more than 30 years. He started managing rappers for Rush Productions, then led Def Jam. Def Jam, and after Def Jam, Cohen took a leadership role at Warner Music Group. In September 2012, Cohen resigned from Warner and started his own independent label, 300 Entertainment. Now, why is he so important? Here's some of the artists he worked with. Onyx. Who remembers Onyx? J.O. Felony. Redman, Method Man, Jay-Z, DMX, Ja Rule, Ludacris, Rockefeller, Murder Inc. Who remembers Murder Inc.? Disturbing the Peace. And on and on and on. Many, many, many of these hardcore gangster rapper types. Leora Cohen, people. Did anybody ever cancel his bank account for allowing his artists to say nigga with impunity, kill that nigga, F that B, with impunity, smoke weed, Percocet, Molly Percocet? How many businesses stopped doing business with him? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. He got rich off of blood money and Black Death, correct? But who consumed it? Who consumed it? We did, correct? The second that we demand and enforce our own people not consuming our own destruction, you will get labeled anti-Semitic. That's the point. That's the point. It's not that these people are anti-Semitic. It's that they're saying or they're implying that Black people need to be working with themselves, with themselves and for themselves. That's what it is. That's what it is. There's not a single industry, whether in entertainment or in sports, that Black people are in, except that these industries are, first of all, used specifically to make Black people think and act in a certain manner, in a very destructive manner, and enrich people who are hostile to the Black community. But secondly, the idea of freedom is a complete and total illusion. Because if you had freedom, you can say things like Black people are the original Semites. You can say some stuff like that. You should be able to say stuff. Okay, well, how long has the Jewish community been in Europe for? Like, how long is your history there for? Let's put it out there. Were you there since the time of Jesus? Alayhi salam? Were you there since the time of Jesus? Or did you get there sometime after the rise of Islam? And how did you get there? In Jewish scriptures, you have no history in Europe at all. In your own scriptures, your history, and according to your scriptures, which are just happen to be, scriptures that we respect and adore, Your history is in Africa and the Middle East. That's it. So where does European Jews come from? We can't ask that without being anti-Semitic. So now that I've asked the question, does that make me anti-Semitic now? If I asked, where did black people from America, where did they come from? Does that make me anti-black? If I ask, where do Europeans in Canada, where do they come from? That makes me anti-white. But if I ask, where did these European Jews, how long, what's their history, like how long they've been in Europe for? That will be anti-Semitic. Why? Because it will put a big bright light on Africa. Hello. Hello. These Jews who were running away from Pharaoh at the time of Musa were Europeans? Like y'all? Blonde-headed, blue-eyed? Leaving Egypt and stuff? Really? Somebody make it make sense. But the second you say that, you become anti-Semitic. You get me? Just for saying it. Just for asking a simple question. So now we have a situation. Because black people, again, who have no history of anti-Jewish hatred at all, they looking at Jewish people funny right now. They seen what you did to Whoopi Goldberg. They seen what you did to Nick Cannon. They seen what you did to Kanye West. They seen what you did to Kyrie Irving. And they're looking at you funny, like, what's going on here? They're looking at you weird. Y'all hearing me? So now, we're asking, you're looking at you like, is there some validity to what these entertainers and basketball players are saying? If you had left it alone, it probably would have just died out. But you didn't leave it alone. Okay? You didn't leave it alone. Y'all hearing me? So I'm going to open it up. Anybody can join me now. If you want to come hop in on this. Links in the description. And I'm pretty sure that this live, it won't last very long. I doubt it. You know, I might have to, I guess free speech is just free speech if you are a member of a protected group, which we are not. Which we are not. Y'all hearing me? So anyways, let me just read. Hold on one second. Assalamu alaikum, Victor.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
All right.
I've been watching your channel for the past 2 years. So,
Mashallah.
the past
Thank you.
couple of years.
Thank you. I
Back
appreciate
to
it.
that, like, I don't agree to some of that Afro. I grew up in it because my mom was born in the 60s. I grew up in the 70s Black Power movement. So I got a lot of those books at home. So I don't agree to some of those beliefs, but like that were the ancient Hebrews. But I do believe that a lot of what Kanye has been saying, I already learned this like 10 years ago, that they run the entertainment, banking. You can just do a Google search. You can see all that stuff.
Yeah, all you have to do is search the owners of these record labels, these TV companies, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And even I'm with you on that. To be honest, a lot of it is embellished when it comes from these pro-black people. I'll be quite honest with you, right? And the idea that, you know, black folk, like the I want to say the descendants of slavery are you know, somehow Semitic, it's far-fetched.
Yeah.
It is far-fetched.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's far-fetched because we understand that the Western African region and the Central African region, those people are mostly Bantus and Muslims and these type of things.
Yeah.
Right? And these are the people that were kidnapped in slavery. But the Eastern African region, yes, for sure, like they have truly Jewish people.
Yeah, like Ethiopian Jews. Yeah. And there's a theory on the Limba Jews. They have Semitic DNA. I don't know how it's all connected, but they make a claim. But I know the Ethiopian Jews, I've been believing that since I was a kid. Like no one can tell me. Yeah, I've been believing that since my mom told me that when I was like a little child in the 90s. So I believe that. But I like you do a great program exposing this stuff because like I can say that my grandmother and my grandfather have Native American DNA in them because they told me it's in my DNA as I ran the program, Ancestry.com. But I don't go around saying I'm the original indigenous Native American or anything.
Yeah, it's
all craziness.
Weird. Yeah, it's very weird that how people make that connection. You know what I mean? Because most black people from the diaspora, we also have European DNA.
Yeah,
because of slavery, you know, it's very, you know, it's not like unusual, right? Why aren't these people now saying that you're Europeans, that the rich, you know what I'm saying? It's weird, but ironically, after mentioning that, Dane Calloway, this guy is
that guy's the most craziest one.
Yeah, he says that the real Africans that came from Africa as slaves were white people.
Yeah, I told my friends that and they laugh.
Yeah, well, why he says this? And he's not.
Yeah, and I've been like, for me personally, because I got it in my DNA, Ancestry.com. So when I got it, I was like, I know I'm from West Africa. I know about slavery. I know everything. I know for a fact some of my ancestors were Muslims. Some were probably in the Yoruba religion. All got mixed up in America. But I don't know why we can't just be like, hey, I'm from West Africa. My ancestors came from West Africa, parts of North Africa. Why do we have to claim like we're the Cherokee, we're the Navajo, we're the Aztecs, we're the Incans, we're this and that? And like, I think it steals away black. I know, understand. Like, we lost our black identity in slavery. Like, none of us can trace. Like, I can only go back to the 1800s with my family, so I can understand that part. But I think as modern FBA, whatever you want to call yourself, now I'm on with the FBA train because it makes sense to me, a lot of that stuff. But I'm religiously Muslim first. Like that's how I identify my spirituality, Muslim first. I do accept that my ancestors came from West Africa. I do accept all that. They came from Nigeria, Ghana, Congo, like all over. But I think I don't know, for me, because I've been researching this myself. I think it's some kind of deep self-hatred from 400 years ago, 300 years we've been here, that we're trying to hide in these different groups. Like, now we're the Egyptians, We're the Hebrews, we're the Native Americans, we're the original, we're this and that. But if you listen to all these like conscious Afrocentrics, they'll never bring up, they don't talk about West African history, never. They don't talk about South African history. They don't talk about this stuff. It's always we're the Egyptians, we're the this and that. I know for sure that ancient Egypt, if you just look at it, it was so close to it's in Africa. So of course there was a mixture that happened. But to claim that Cleopatra was black, which she wasn't, and all these pharaohs, some of them were towards later dynasties, but to claim all this and to escape your West African heritage, your ancient Islamic heritage, to just throw that away and then just hide into where the Hebrews now. Like I just noticed this is like 6 years ago. And then it's just like, I think no one reads books, no one studies actual history. And then they just, I think it's a cope. I think sometimes it gets into a cope. Let's just hide into these false identities. I don't even know, man. It's just
it's very easy if you have ignorant people, right? It's very easy to convince them of anything, right? So a lot, actually the Prophet ﷺ, he used to advise the Muslims, when you ask Allah, he said he used to say, ask Allah, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilmun nafi' wa rizqan tayyiba wa amalan mutaqabbala, right? So he used to order the Muslims to say, oh Allah, give me ilmun nafi', like the beneficial knowledge, right? The knowledge that will benefit me, right? Or rizqan tayyiba, and the good wealth, the wealth that is not haram, like the wealth that is righteous, right?
Yeah.
And the deeds that will draw me nearer to you, right? So when the point that I want to make here is this: the ilmun nafi, the beneficial knowledge part, right? You have ilmun nafi, and then you have the opposite of that, which is knowledge which doesn't benefit. And if you are ignorant, it is very easy and simple to be manipulated into knowledge which doesn't benefit. So now we have millions of black folk who don't know who they are, where they come from, and they were prevented from education, and they were prevented from any type of like wealth or independence. So it's very easy to manipulate people like this and tell them anything and they'll believe it. Oh, you are the original Egyptians. Oh, you are the original Hebrews. Oh, you're like it's very easy to come into identity politics through that route in order to receive some benefit. So in the Great Depression, this is when a lot of these groups popped up. This is when you had the Hebrew Israelites. They popped up in the Great Depression time. Right?
Yeah.
You had the Religion of Islam popped up in the Great Depression. You had the Moors. They popped up in the Great Depression time. There's another man. I don't know if you know Father Divine.
I heard about him. I just read about him last year. Yeah.
He popped up in the Great Depression. All these different type of cults went around black people, telling them that this was kind of the first time this type of this thing happened, that they're the chosen group. And then what happened by the time we reached the 90s, you had a man named Dwight York. Right?
Yeah, that guy.
He is really the forefather and the founder of all these modern cults that we see today, right? So he's the founder of your Kemits, of your indigenous, where the indigenous, he's the founder of all that, because he's the one who basically solidified what they believe today. He founded all of them, right? He started off, I don't know if you remember, but he was the Nubian Islamic Hebrews, then he went to the Ansar cult, or the Ansar Allah, right?
When they're dressing up as Egyptians and stuff with the Moorish hats and everything.
Before that, they were Muslim. People like whatchamacallit? What's that? What's Blackzilla or whatever? Not Blackzilla. What's his name? King Kong Consciousness. What's his name again? King Kong Consciousness. Oh
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
What's his name, Abu Yazid? King Kong Consciousness. Dr. Umar.
Dr. Umar.
Yeah, he comes from that background, the Ansar cult. Him, Mark. What's it? Mark. This is Mark. The whatchamacallit? The reporter. Anyway, a lot of people come from that path, right? Then he changed the doctrine, and they were black cowboys. Yeah. They used to dress up as cowboys, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said that the original cowboys were black people. So a whole bunch of black people started dressing up like cowboys because of him. Then he said the original black people are Indians. And he is the first one to say that black people were the Yamasi. And now what do these people say, like Dane Calloway and them? What they call themselves? Yamasi. Right? They don't know where it's coming from. Right? And then they said they were the ancient Egyptians. That's when he started building the pyramids in Atlanta and stuff. And that's where you got the Kemet people from. Right?
Okay.
You get it? So he spearheaded all of this stuff, right? And I'm glad the brother Blackamore, he mentioned Dr. Yosef Ben Buchanan. Yeah, Yosef Ben
Dr. Ben. Like, they were good. I think I watched a video on this from this guy and his brother named Chief X. He kind of exposes a lot of this stuff. And I kind of get it in the early 60s. Like, we're trying to find her history, because if you talk to my grandmother, she was born in the 30s, and Black history for them was these videos of like New Guinea or somewhere. And I don't take offense to that. I have tribal stuff here that I collect from West Africa, but they took offense to that because they wanted to know their Black history. What's our Black history? And they wanted to know more than, oh, we started as slaves. I could see that like passion, but then why would you steal your identity to claiming that you're King Tut and Ramses and all these other pharaohs?
Exactly,
you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But it's easy to confuse people with that if you don't have an identity already. You get it? And there's a lot of very nefarious elements in the background who just all they want to do is exploit Black people, and they're Black people. Like Dwight York, right? He's like a typical exploiter, right? Like Dane Calloway. You know?
Like I used to watch in 2016. This is before Islam, so this is 2016. I used to watch like the House of Consciousness. Those brothers in New York, right? I used to watch them like a lot, like and like a lot of his bunk. They just like to debate and fight and argue.
And they don't do anything. They don't do anything.
Yeah, they don't do anything. It's just for money. It's just like a money grab.
Exactly. It's a hustle. Brother Abu Yazid.
Salaam Alaikum.
What you got for us, bro?
Well, the thing about it with all these different theories and groups is that there is an element of truth to each one of the claims. The problem is the grifting and that comes along with it. But see, I put the blame on that on white supremacy, actually. The primary blame for what, because if history was not interpreted from a Eurocentric standpoint, and it hadn't been whitewashed in the first place, then Black people wouldn't have to try to piece together their history like a jigsaw puzzle, So the original blame has to go to the white supremacist first and foremost. And the white supremacists created the environment for somebody like Dr. York to grift and take advantage of certain things. So, go ahead.
Well, history in general, that's pretty much how it's always been. People trying to figure it out like a jigsaw puzzle, like from time, right? Even Islamic history is like that, right? You got to remember when Ibn Ishaq he wrote the first Sirah. Why did he write that his Sirah book, right? Because it was a response to the Rafida Shia, and they were writing about how Ali is the true Khalifa and these type of things. So he's just trying to piece together the Islamic history back then, and that's pretty much how this type of historical writing kind of started, right? People trying to piece together whatever it is. Ironically enough, throughout history, whoever writes the history, always the good guys win. Always. Yeah. Ironically enough. So when white folks are writing history, and they're writing history in the context of colonization, they're not writing that, oh, and by the way, we murdered millions, and we gave these Indians these blankets, and we we kidnapped and raped millions and millions of black people. They don't write that. What did they write? They write, we colonized the Africans, we educated them, you know, and we had Thanksgiving, right? That's what they write.
Yeah.
Because they're always the good guys, right? So whoever writes the history, right, he's going to write history from, you know, a very celebrated angle from his viewpoint. And Africans in general, do they have a written history?
No, especially West Africa.
No, they don't.
It's oral.
Exactly.
It's an oral. It was an oral history.
It's an oral history, right? And oral history will never, ever, ever compete with a written history. Never. It's impossible. You understand?
True.
So,
but from what you just said, you know, again, I have to place the blame on the white supremacists, because many of these, you know, these groups we see in the black community are only imitating white people, the white supremacists, just in the opposite direction. So a lot of it is a reaction again to Eurocentric history. So because the white supremacists claimed he invented mathematics, he invented, you know, written language, and that it all started with the Greeks, you know, that creates the environment when somebody does a little research in a library and they see, well, hold on, you know, Egyptians had written language. There was written language in Mesopotamia. You can go further back than both of those examples. There's written language in West Africa before Egypt. So written language goes back a long time. Mathematics goes back a long time. You know, so because of the lies of white supremacy, it opens the door for this type of speculation. Because once people get a little evidence to show that the white supremacists already lied, now people can come with a new reinterpretation of history. You know what I'm saying? But it's the grifting. The grifting part is what's damaging. So, for instance, you said about Dr. York dressing up like a cowboy. You know, yes.
Oh, right, he did all this. He did all of it.
Yeah. So in reality, you got individuals who were slaves that were cowboys, which makes perfect sense. Who would have been handling their livestock in the South back in the 1800s? You know, white guys in blue jeans or slaves? You know, no, it would have been slaves. They were the first cowboys, and there were many black cowboys. There's an individual, I think his name is Bass Rusin, who it came to find out that certain characters that we see in cowboy movies were based on him, but they just whitewashed it. You know, but
yeah, like the show Tonto. Tonto and what's the other name?
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. Bass Rusin had a Native American partner with him. You know, but the thing is, the grifting part is getting your followers to dress up like, you don't have to dress up like a cowboy now. You know, that's the grifting part. You know, or forming a group and making people dress in a uniform like a cowboy, or making them walk around with a King Tut headpiece on. That's the grift. That's when you get into the grifting, when you start controlling people, you start controlling their money, you controlling people's minds, you start doing sexual exploitation of women and children. That's the grifting. That's all the grifting part. You know, the same thing with this whole Hebrew issue. Now, one of the things that people have to realize is the prevailing theory is the out of Africa theory, that human beings originate in Africa and then they leave Africa and go into the Middle East, into Mesopotamia, and then to the rest of the world. But also at the same time, people have to realize it wasn't just out of Africa; it was in and out of Africa. The people groups would leave Africa, go into other parts of the world, and then come back and return back into Africa. I said this on the video I just made a couple of days ago. There's an article that I was reading about. There was a group of human beings that migrated out of Africa into Mesopotamia. They stayed in Mesopotamia. And then at some point, because of some type of change in the environment, they left and came back into Africa and settled back into Africa. So human beings migrate. Human beings have migrated in and out of Africa. Africa and the Middle East are side by side with each other. People have migrated out of Africa into the Middle East, from the Middle East back into Africa for thousands upon thousands of years. And like I said in my video, they had sex with each other and they made babies. So with that being said, people have to come out of this idea. There's a lot of racism behind a lot of some of the denial of some certain things, because people have anti-black sentiment, and they have so-called, and you want to, these arbitrary designations that really don't exist. They're just stuff we made up, like Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, African continent, Middle East. These are all just names that we made up.
Yeah,
exactly.
C-Late Trey, what you got for us?
Hey, thank you, man. So a couple of things. Let's start with the most apparent thing on this Kyrie situation. Why is Jeff allowed to do this since 2018? The movie been out since 2018. But for some reason, nobody said nothing in 2019. It's been bestseller for a while on the bestseller list. And matter of fact, I spoke to a couple of Jewish people today in some rooms, and I brought up the Jeff question, and immediately I was told he's too big. So hold on. A guy who just say, hey, I'm finna watch some Tyler Perry. You mean the gay community or the straight community supposed to be mad? I mean, all he said was, I'm about to watch this film.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. As a matter of fact, as mentioned, C-Late Trey, he didn't even say anything really. He was ambushed by, for the way I see it, he was ambushed by that reporter because what was going on with Kanye, because he put that tweet out a long time ago.
Well, it was the owner of the Nets first, actually, Mark. Yeah. I forgot his last name. It's the owner of the Nets is the first one to try to call him out on that.
And the craziest part of all this is, where is the smoke for Jeff? Jeff Bezos just sitting up there like, look, I'm gonna keep selling this. It's not even a problem.
You know what? I can't believe that. I can't believe that excuse. I did not believe that excuse. Because Kanye was a multi-billionaire.
You can keep renting it today. It's all good. That's what Jeff is saying. So one thing I'm proud of is several black men, even black men we don't necessarily like, they are speaking up against this type of stuff, because it's like, I'm glad it happened, to be honest. Because see, I'm a history nut. I need black men to have events like this in life that they can tell their children, hey, when you're in a discussion, reference that time that Kanye got attacked. Reference that time that in 1939 when they ripped up the white papers of Palestine and they started shooting Palestinians to make way for these people. Represent, point to that time. And I'm gonna end by saying this. History, just like the brother was saying about grifters, I don't look at these white folks as grifters. I lived overseas. I'm a history nut. I know Galaic history, Rus Vikings, all that type of stuff. Even African. I got $1,200 worth of book on Africa before Islam. I'm studying Numidia right now. I'm studying the god Bomosi right now. What we find is that the African male, just like us here in the States, white folks realize we so busy speaking against each other, they decided, the Greeks, I'm gonna write these stories for African children to believe in. And because nobody else is doing it. And then I'm gonna sell, I'm gonna take Zeus and Hercules, which is a Libyan story, and I'm gonna take the Towers of Poseidon, which is in Tangier to this day, and I'm gonna rewrite Poseidon to be one of us over here, and I'm going to kick out Zeus, and I'm going to simultaneously create a second god called Odin, and simultaneously create a second son called Thor. So have you ever wondered how Thor and Hercules exist at the same time, but both of them supposed to be omnipotent gods? How can Zeus and Odin exist, and they both allegedly came from the Greeks? They didn't, because just like the brother said, we don't share these with children, and the people in Africa rely on too much oral history, and so anybody with a pen and paper, whether they be Greeks or Persians or whoever, can pencil pimp our children, because we don't really talk about this stuff the way we should.
This point you brought up right here, brother C. Trey, is a very deep and important point, because we got to remember, even this is how, and it kind of ties into what brother Abu Yazid was saying about how the white supremacists, they are the ones who kind of, confuse the histories. And if you look at what was done with the Bible, specifically the Bible, okay, the first time in history that the children of Canaan were used, that whole story of Noah and Canaan being the cursed seed and a slave to his brothers, the first time that was ever used as a weapon against anybody was during the 15th century, when Pope Innocent, he used this story to say that Black people are perpetually supposed to be enslaved. And that's where you got the whole concept of race, because remember, race itself is a social construct. It started in the 1500s to support this, and for the first time in history, Black slavery. You understand? Like, specifically for Black people, slavery has always existed, right? But now we're saying that we're going to enslave people based upon race. Before that, there was no such thing as race. And how were they able to do that? Because Africans are used to oral history, right? But the Europeans, now that they got writing, ironically, they got writing from Africans, right? Ironically enough, remember, Africans were ruling Europe for 800 years as the Moors, right? And during the Spanish Inquisition, when they started kicking out those same Africans and forced converting Jews, they started saying that Black people are, the cursed seed of Canaan, and they were able to do it with the pen. They were able to do it with the pen.
Absolutely.
And that interpretation actually came from the Jews first.
There you go. Brother Abu Barak, what you got for us, bro?
Salaam Alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
This issue about anti-Semitic, it's a really hot topic, and it's used, I believe, is used as a position of power and respect. All right. And there's a saying, whoever have the power or authority, he gets the respect. So it should show you.
There's a saying also, whoever pays the piper names the tune.
That's right.
This is really what it's about. Go ahead, Abu Bakr.
So this thing about being anti-Semitic, Black people in America, I don't see Black people in general anti-Semitic, because one thing, we give the Jews all our money. We have a preference to them. For example, if you look in certain part of Black history in America, that there were agreements with the Jewish community and the Black community, right? And this is where you could find in certain places in America, in the Black communities, where they had Jewish doctor office, Jewish business in the Black community, and things like this. So there were some relationships between Black Americans and the Jews. Now, this is the debate related to Jews, is how much did the Jews play in slavery, right? The slavery of Black Americans or Africans through the Atlantic slave trade. The debate is that some of them did, some of them didn't, but some of them did benefit from the point of slavery in the Caribbean and South America, right? The next debate is Jews were for slavery, right? So first thing we have to understand, in the Bible, the Jews owned slaves, the Hebrews owned slaves and were slaves, right? So that's one thing we have to know. Number two, when it comes to the civil rights movement. Now, some people say the Jews were for civil rights. So the real argument is, was the Jewish community as a whole for civil rights, or were individual Jews on their own for civil rights? So this is where some of the debates are when you with some black thinkers who talk about the Jewish and black relationship in America. I personally can't see black Americans as being anti-Semitic, because the Jews also built some of their wealth and their money off of the black community.
Mm.
They own businesses, but the only thing the difference about the Jews when they did business, like they own business in the black neighborhoods, they moved from that. Now we see in America where the immigrants come in the black communities and have business and stuff. It used to be the Jews. The Jews moved up into more of a career-oriented doctors, engineers, things like that. They moved out of those type of businesses, right? And the immigrants came in and took those kind of positions they had in the black community. So when they talk about black people, anti-Semitic, and that brother Kyrie, who's the basketball player, when I look at some of the things that they claim blacks of being anti-Semitic, the truth is why the Jewish community don't press Amazon.
Yeah,
that's my thing.
That's what C. Trey was just saying. That's what C. Trey was just saying. Why if you're going to press Kyrie, who's a basketball player, and he doesn't really benefit at all from sharing a tweet, right? What about the person who is benefiting financially from the sales of that very documentary that you're saying that you have a problem with? You understand?
I think they're upset with Kyrie because he's just a person on the plantation. And
well,
so they
yeah,
could do that
he's
with
off script, and this is the response that they have for off script Negroes all the time. We mentioned that long list. So many black people accused of anti-Semitism, and the charge of anti-Semitism is so weak and so ridiculous, right? That if you were to argue with it on a fair playing ground, that they would just get absolutely destroyed with this charge. But they're not trying to play fair. You understand? They're using the heavy-handedness of their financial and political and their the propaganda influence in order to force black folk into apologies and buck break them, just like they did with Nick Cannon, just like they did with Whoopi Goldberg, all buck broken. And Whoopi Goldberg is a Jew. She's a Jewess, right?
I didn't she was just using that last name. I didn't know she was that religion.
Yeah, it's her last name.
She's converted to Judaism back in the 80s, something like that.
On top of that, Whoopi Goldberg is a very good plantation house Negro. She's done so much work for these people, and they still were heavy-handed with her. And this response is something that they have specifically for black people. You understand? So they're not interested in dialogue. What they're interested is in control. And black people have to understand this. There's a difference between the person who wants power and the person who wants rights. They're not the same people. They don't pray for the same things. They don't move in the same ways. The person who wants power will move like somebody who wants power. The person who wants power, they're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in dialogue. They're interested in control. That's it.
But
Go ahead.
But you notice that, like here in the U.S., when you have people who attack synagogues, for example, right? If you look at most of those terrorist attacks on synagogues, you notice majority of the attackers are not black people; they're white. They're not black. I'm not saying that black people don't commit crimes or just like Jews or get in arguments and fight. But you notice when there's like a real terrorist attack, Klan attack, and it's against Jews, it's not black people. It's not black American people.
Yeah, we mentioned that. Black people have no history of violence against Jews. Never.
Matter of fact.
But when it comes to the Jewish response to perceived anti-Semitism, which it is not, their response is so over the top. Now, black people are finally opening their eyes. And they're seeing
and black people love Jews more than they love their own self.
They gave him great gangster rap. You know what I mean?
I tell you right now, Aki, as a Muslim and black, I tell you, if I had to go to a doctor, needed surgery, I'm going to choose the Jewish doctor.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fact. Me too.
If I gotta go,
I went to a Jewish lawyer. You know
I went to a lawyer before, right? I went to a group of lawyers, and then I went to a Jewish lawyer, right? The Jewish lawyer told me everything I need to do, what's not going to work. He's talking to me like, we black, we talking. I'm looking at this white guy, he's Jewish. He's like, yo, this is how we got to do it, like this, and this. You know, I would choose the Jewish lawyer over the regular white guy who's a lawyer.
I'll tell you something. When I was younger, and this is the effect of brainwashing. Some people. I remember when I was younger, I had a debate with a black Christian guy, right, Jamaican guy, right, and we're talking about Palestine in those days, you know, because Palestine was a hot topic back in those days, right? And I asked him, you know, are you telling me because the Bible says that this land belongs to the Jewish people, that the response that the Zionists are inflicting on the Palestinians is fair and just? He said yes. He said yes. Brainwashing. And that's what it is at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's about that, to control the minds of people. That if you get
I was
go ahead, Victor, go ahead.
I was just saying I was Pentecostal apostolic for about 10 years. So I understand that, because when you're in church, that's what they tell you is very pro-Zionist when you're in the Christian church.
Yeah, that's what it is. You know what I mean? So that really, that's what it's about. It's about control, and it's not really about anything about fairness or anything like that. Which is why I have a feeling that this video is going to get flagged. Right? So.
Yeah, the thing is, like a lot of when they come to power issues and like stuff like that. Like, I know it's not every Jewish person, but I do know that it exists. Like, there's politicians talking about it that got blackballed throughout the past 20 years. There's entertainers that talked about it throughout history. You can find, if the people wanted to know, the information's out there. It's just that I think Kanye went off script when he said that DEFCON whatever. He should just name the people who he had beef with. He should just name the personal people, the individuals. That would have been smoothed over a lot easier than the way he went around it and just claiming the whole race, you know? Like, that's what it sounded like in the beginning, you know?
Again, like, it's Kanye. Like seriously, we don't even take him seriously. Why is the Jewish community take him seriously like that, to the point where even the banks are pulling deals from him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
you know what it revealed to me, because I think you're kind of my age. I was born in '83, but I think you're a little older than me. But when I grew up in the '90s, like, we saw, and this is what I was perceiving for a long time. Like, you got all these rappers, they're all hard, and then you got all these like Jay-Z, Diddy, all these billionaires, Oprah Winfrey, and then what the Kanye revealed to me is our lack of power in the West.
Yes,
we have money, but we don't have any power.
Black people are seeing it. You understand? Can you imagine if today, instead of the NBA players siding with the Jewish owners of the NBA, right? They sided with themselves. And we say on this channel all the time, if you are just playing in this left-right paradigm, you're an idiot, especially if you're a Muslim. Because Muslims shouldn't play in the left-right paradigm. Rather, if you're going to vote for yourself, because you're in the system anyways. Give yourself the power. Why are you giving it to somebody else? Can you imagine if all the NBA players said today that, you know what, we're standing with Kyrie? You know, what are you guys doing? This is not the first time it's happened in the NBA, by the way. Remember Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf? Who remembers Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf? Remember him?
No.
90s kid. What's his name? Mark Jackson from with Denver Nuggets. He was Stephen Curry before Stephen Curry. And why did they basically blacklisted him? Why? Because he became Muslim, Chris Jackson, thank you. Not Mark, Chris Jackson. That's right. Chris Jackson. He became Muslim, and because he became Muslim, he didn't want to stand up for the national anthem anymore.
Oh yeah.
He was one of the top players, right up there, top 10 players in the NBA, up there. You know, he couldn't miss a shot, shooting threes like in everybody's face. You know what I mean? And they blacklisted him because he didn't want to stand up for the national anthem. Right? So imagine if that time the player said, what are you guys doing? You know, what you're doing is wrong. It's wrong. He has religious beliefs. Let him, you know, do something else. You know what I mean? You don't have to blacklist the guy. But it's because it's a message that they're sending to the wider NBA and to Black people in general. That if you go off script, this is what's going to happen to you. You get it? That's what it's about.
You know what's crazy when you mentioned the left-right paradigm? It reminds me, I used to listen to Neely Fuller. He has recordings on YouTube, and it's so true. Whenever a Black person gets out of line, then they bring in other Black people to silence them. You know
what happened with Shaquille O'Neal and what's his face, Charles Barkley.
And it happens on the left and the right. It's insanity. Like,
yeah, Charlemagne calling what's his face, Kanye anti on his show. Charlemagne, this is the games that they play, bro. They play these games, right? And because Black people are so invested in their indoctrination, they go for it. But what's happening now is that Black people are waking up. They're waking up to what's really going on with the indoctrination, and they're saying like what they're actually questioning. You get it? Which is why it's important for Muslims now, especially Black Muslims, you know, to stay on code, right? Because people are going to be wanting to look for answers, right? And if you are out there wilding out with the rest of these, no pun intended, again, wilding out with the rest of these, indoctrinated fools, they're not going to take you seriously, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So go ahead, brother. Yeah. Let you get the last thoughts in, and we'll call it a day. Inshallah.
Yeah, it's just remarkable to me. Like, I think my personal views, like I always say this all the time, even at work, like it really exposes just the weakness of the power we have as Black people in the West. We just thought we had all this power because of money, because some were billionaires, some were multimillionaires. But it also revealed that this is nothing but buck breaking when they used to do it back in slavery time. Yeah, let's just get them. Exactly. They don't want us to rise. For some reason, I feel spiritually that they don't like masculine Black men. They don't. So when you get this Woman King movie, this new Black Panther movie, which I think is gonna be a feminist movie, but you get this demoralized Black man. This is what the West is pushing. They want this to. They can be big and buff. They like to get the big and buff athletes that exude masculinity and break them. Do it to the Kyrie. Do it to Kanye. Just masculine. And it reminds me of slavery time. They used to get the biggest, baddest Black slave and break them. To use that example to other Black men to weaken them, you know. And it's just been going on for so long that we're more likely, because it happened to me in my real life, we're more likely to attack another Black man, and we won't do anything to anyone else. We'll be the first ones to tear down a Black man, the first one to attack a Black man, the first one to want to try to kill a Black man. You can see it all in the drill, trap, rap music. But when it comes to other groups, they won't do it. They will not. They will apologize. I have seen like Tyga did a song.
Kanye, he apologized. He apologized to the Jewish community about, DEFCON 3, whatever he said, but he never apologized to Black people about, slavery being a choice, or Harriet Tubman. She didn't really free to say, she just brought him to work for other white people in the North, or all kind of stuff, right? So this concept that you're saying, it's that in that mind control, you know what I mean? That mass indoctrination, that you must fear white folks the same way you fear God Himself, and that's where that white Jesus and
yeah, yeah, in my spirit, like not spirit, but like I would say like that's the reason why I walked away from Christianity. Like in 2016, that was the main reason why. Because I honestly believe that worshiping a white Jesus indoctrinated us to worship white people, not as gods, but to be higher than ourselves, to be like, you take authority for them. We don't question them. We don't do this and do that. And then that's when you get into like the colorism, because it happened in my family. Big time colorism is a big thing. And broke people up. People are fighting about it. Generations of colorism, like really hardcore. So you can see how that all started from that worshiping white images. Yeah, even to this day, if you get into like, there's these people that still worship the African religions. They do it in the West and the stores. These are African deities from Africa, West Africa, Black West Africa. They make them white. Like they make them like light skinned or very white looking. So you see this 300-year-old, I think it started to worshiping like they got us here. So now we're worshiping a white Jesus, So
yeah. All right. Last thoughts, Brother Victor.
I just think you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
I think you're highlighting a lot of issues that I experienced as a Muslim for the past couple of years. A lot of experiences. Like I know I'm not crazy. Like I experienced certain things, and I know I'm not crazy. And that I think my faith was challenged a lot last year, like a lot because of certain issues. But I think it came back. I left for a while, and then I came back. But I think these topics need to get exposed. Like all that you're talking about needs to get exposed because that does it for new reverts. A lot of these topics does affect us. Like,
of course,
a lot of certain things I didn't experience as a Christian growing up. I didn't experience, But for me, I think my love for Islam is greater than a lot of this BS going on,
Yeah.
But so I like that you're talking about social issues, religious issues that happen within Islam, than the greater community, because I do see it. Everyone sees it. But it's just sad that a lot of people who come from the Eastern background or Asian background, it's sad that they don't see it. It's sad that they don't see the issues. They just think it's more, this is the way it is, and this is how we're going to have it,
To their own detriment.
Yeah.
It's no skin off of our backs, to be honest. If you look at most Black converts, they become Muslim despite the Muslims, not because of the Muslims, right?
Yeah.
They become Muslim because they understand that Islam is the truth. If we are waiting for these so-called Muslim brothers and sisters of ours, we would never become Muslim.
Correct, yeah.
You know what I mean? And for decades, we've been neglected, decades. But now the Black crash is here, and those days are gone. we are not neglecting these issues at all anymore. You know what I mean? And we hope that, inshallah, this will cause other Black people to come together and work together, and we can fix our situation, with the help of Allah. Because nobody else is going to help us except for Allah. And the quicker we get that, understand that concept, because we're so used to running to other people looking for acceptance. It's a part of our nature as
so I noticed that too. Like you see that a lot with like the Candace Owenses and because I'm very conservative, like because I've been for the past 10 plus years, and I don't consider myself, but like before I was Muslim, I didn't consider myself like a Republican Party or pro-Zionist, not that kind of conservative, but the traditional family values, But I think for a lot of conservative Black people in America, for that acceptance, they adopt those right-wing beliefs, like the right-wing narrative.
That's a new phenomenon.
For acceptance.
Because what happened is that all these immigrants, they came here under liberal governments. So now you're in your second and your third generation of Muslims, that the liberal government allowed all these Muslims to come in as refugees or as white folks trying to get the American dream or whatever. Right? It was the liberal governments that let them in for their votes. And you're seeing now since the alt-right kind of, basically blast on the scene in 2016, there's a new type of Muslim who's monetizing alt-right talking points and spreading it amongst the Muslims under the guise that this is Islamic. You understand? So now what they'll say is the liberals are like this, and the feminists, and the LGBTQs, and all of these things Islam is against. You know what I mean? Because Islam is against liberalism and feminism and these type of things. No doubt, right? But they don't look to the destructive practices of the conservative party themselves. So they hide all of that stuff, like latent racism. Okay? Like horrific, what you call it, foreign policy, these type of things. They hide all of that stuff and say that you have to be a conservative. You get me? So when people like Jordan Peterson, the same Jordan Peterson that these same Muslims push forward to begin with, start saying, advice to Muslims, and they start storming Masjid al-Aqsa, now they have to double back. You get me? Because they were pushing Jordan Peterson. Now all of them is their enemy. When he was always like that. He never changed. He was like that when you were pushing him. You get me? And in Islam, the democratic process is inherent in culture to begin with. How are you going to give everybody the right to dictate what is happening in your society? You don't do this in Islam. You don't do this in Islam. Everybody has a vote. So basically, your vote is the same as the crackhead vote. And a crackhead vote is the same as a trainee. And a trainee's vote is the same as the meth head's vote. You know what I'm saying? Everybody gets a say. But you want to participate in that and pass it off as Islam. Like, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Go ahead.
Like, I think they find, like, the anti-feminism, the anti-LGBT, they find those topics in alignment with the alt-right, but I think that the alt like they used to be all over YouTube back in before Trump. All those channels, they were anti-Islam. All of them were.
Yeah.
Anti-Muslim, anti-Islam. So what you're getting is from the right, the far right, this anti-Islamic. They don't want any refugees. They don't want any Muslims in the West. And the left, you think they're better, but no, they want to liberalize Islam. So, accept the LGBT. You don't have to wear a hijab no more. Oh, it's okay to be what they're. So both sides are bad. Like there's no.
Exactly. Hello. Anyways, Jazakallah khair, brother Victor. I'd like to thank everybody who joined us tonight. May Allah reward you and bless you all. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka.
All right, see you, brother.
We are the Muslim wing of the black grassroots. Unapologetic, strong, uncompromising voices that have been in the faces of the enemy and those who tap dance for them. The Feachaz is proud to present the archives exclusively on Patreon.